cuddly with your horse? Do you love brushing them and being with them? But does your horse then sometimes come into your space a bit too much? It's a common problem, and here to give you some tips on helping this and other horse questions is Mark Langley. This is Mark Langley's Horsemanship Podcast, a podcast helping people to help their horses. I'm Jenny Langley. Mark, we'll come to the pushy horses in a moment. But first, I have a couple of questions for you. The first one is from Isis in Canada. She's got 3 horses that live together out in the field, and now it's super cold and snowy. So she's wondering if you can give some tips that she can work with them that won't take too long because it's so freezing, so that when they've finished with their time off, when she gets them back in to do riding or driving, those little exercises that you've given her would be useful.
I'm a bit of a minimalist when it comes to groundwork and stuff. So I guess this is groundwork you're wanting to do. It sounds like you're driving them too. So basically, I just go out and I just teach a horse to lead up softly. Just come for a bit of a walk, keep it bright, keep yourself, energetic, so you're staying warm, and lead up, get soft through that pole. Back up a bit. Just keep them supple in the lead, following the lead rope. Amazingly. It's really, just because when you get them back in and you take the reins and you put a feel on, they're really soft. So, you might practice them with the lifts and just lift and float, move around a little bit, lead up, back up, just that basic leading, hindquarter yield through indirect rein, with her over through indirect rein, lead them through and just do some little circles around you, then, lead up, just so they're soft and supple. Practice a little bit of personal space as you do it. Sometimes you might be walking along and say, that's my bubble. Can you just be aware of that space? So, when I'm on task and I'm fixing things and I'm doing stuff, just be aware of that space and just keep a certain amount of awareness in them when you're with them and stuff like that. Keep the leading supple, then put them away, just a little bit. It'll just keep that adjustable frame of mind, not just sort of, you don't have to do a heap of stuff with them. It just keeps them sort of blinking, thinking, making good adjustments and things like that. So the other thing is just if you're going to be driving, just put the long reins on them every now and again and just roll them around in the long reins, back them up, make sure they're very comfortable at sort of softly moving within pressure, in the feel of the reins. Maybe drive them out a little bit and back, do little journeys out, and you have to go out and back, each horse out and back, and just always keep them in a mindset they can be taken away from the others and be brought back, and taken away from the others and be brought back. And because it's obviously a time thing, you're more worried about is you work out how long it's going to take, and you just go out and do some out and back, and then put one away, get another one, just so they're not just bonded all that time, and then all of a sudden you get back to work, you take one away, and it's like the world ends. They're used to that little routine of each one of those horses has been out, and by going out on short little distances and coming back, you're showing the horses you always take them home. And if you did that all winter, by the time you get to working them in the summer, they know the longer they go out, you'll always take them home because you're showing them that all winter time too. So that's always good to keep them ready to be taken on their own and not feel that you're a horse abductor.
Fantastic. Now, you mentioned in that answer the use of an indirect rein. I've got a question here from Ilse from Holland, and she would just like to know a little bit clearer in her mind what a indirect and a direct rein means. She's thinking that a direct rein can create more of a bend in the horse, like a lateral flexion, whereas the indirect rein can keep the horse straight and create a movement at the same time. So maybe a bit like side passing, but it doesn't have a bend. Could we just get your clarification on that, please?
It's not necessarily the indirect and direct rein is not necessarily the amount of bend. So you can use a direct rein and create quite a bit of bend depending on how you use that direct rein. You can use an indirect rein and create quite a bit of bend. So it's the direction of the movement of the horse that's the context of indirect and direct. Okay, so the first thing I'll kind of clear up in that is the way I understand it is if you take a right rein and it influences a left movement, so that the horse's movement goes to the left using the right rein, that would be indirect because right is causing the movement to go left. Direct is if I pick up the right rein, the movement goes to the right. It's not necessarily the amount of bend, it's the direction of the horse's movement, where it's travelling, okay? So depending on how you put those reins together, it could be a sideways movement, could be a turn, could be just moving the wither out, hindquarter over, whatever. So I'll give you an example of some just real life basic foundation situations that you'll be using the indirect rein. You'll lift the indirect rein up close to the horse's neck. Now, if you are on a circle, you'll put a bit of finger feel in the rein where the rein bends the horse. And you might put a bit more finger feel in to get more bend on your horse. But as soon as you lift that rein up and push up into your horse's neck a little bit, that horse will lift and yield that shoulder to the outside. The finger feel and the bend creates the flex. The finger feel and that feel of the rein creates the thought to go to that, say we'll talk about the right rein, goes to the right. The bit more feel you put on that rein will create more bend. When it becomes a directed, like a guiding rein, that's when you put a feel and you put a push in that rein that lifts and pushes the horse's wither over. The indirect rein for the wither would be more a forward-flowing rein. And then if you want to turn it into an indirect rein of opposition, so opposition means you're drawing the rein back and opposing the amount of forward the horse has. So as you lift that indirect rein up, put the bend with the finger bend in your horse and then draw that rein back towards your belly button, then instead of catching that wither and pushing it to the outside, you'll have caught the wither, pushed it over a little bit, but as that rein comes back towards your belly button, it'll slow the horse down and make it want to balance by moving its hindquarter around. So that means you'll get the right rein will influence the hindquarter to go to the left, and that will be opposing forward to get the hindquarter. So that's how they would work on that situation. But if you were to put a finger bend on your horse and then lift and open the rein, that right rein will influence the horse's front feet to go right, which means it becomes a direct rein. So the bend can be separate from the direction of the rein depending on how you use that finger bend or that little bend that you use when you first pick up on a rein. When you start directing the rein into the different positions, that's when you're sort of asking that horse to think more and move different body parts.
If that's a little bit unclear, there are videos on that online. You can actually find those. Just punch in indirect rein or direct rein into that search bar, you'll find them. Okay, and the next question, Mark, is from Hannah from Australia. This is the one about managing personal space. So Hannah's new to the membership and she's got a very large, chunky standardbred who's 6 years old. I think that's a new description. I don't think I've ever come across a horse described as chunky, but we all know what she's talking about. So this horse has had a bit of time off and she's just had a baby. So congratulations, Hannah. Now she's very cuddly with her horses. She loves cuddling and grooming them. And she started working with your approach, which is new to her and her horses. So they're doing the leading past the shoulder exercise. And she's wondering how she can manage space between herself and her horse. No real issues, but she's wondering whether she might have sort of messed up a little bit on the personal space just from all the cuddling and grooming and love that she gives them. Maybe set up some false boundaries because horses are quite happy to be on top of her. So what's the best way that she can now go about re-establishing those boundaries?
Okay, it just got me thinking of a chorus of an old song. People think I'm that old, but actually an old song, Kenny Rogers. I think Kenny Rogers sang it, Daytime Friends and Nighttime Lovers. So the song wasn't Daytime Lovers and Nighttime Lovers. It was Daytime Friends and Nighttime Lovers. So there's time for certain things and there's time for other things. That's what you want to think about with horses. Some people have built such a cuddly relationship with their horse that the horse thinks every time they're with the person it's that type of a relationship. And then when the person goes to work the horse goes, hang on a minute, I didn't sign the contract for this. I thought we're doing all this other stuff, this good fun stuff that I like. And then some horses get really sour because you've sort of said, I love this cuddling, friendly relationship, and now I'm going to sort of guide you and get you to do a job. And they're going like, oh no, I didn't sign for this. So it is hard to find that balance, and I know everyone will struggle with that. And so I try and make it black and white for horses and people. I almost sort of say I'll instigate the cuddly side of the relationship, just so they're not always trying to say, can I all the time, because you just want to have it clear So, and I'll do something. I'll have a connection. I might go and put my hand on the horse quietly, and then I might give it a scratch or something like that, and just give it a nice scratch. I'm not patting the horse every time I'm with it. I'm not rubbing it every time it's just done something. My horse just backed up, rub it on the head. My horse just backed up, rub it on the head. I don't do it like people wonder why I don't rub the horse and pat it for doing a task well. It's because I'm not using grooming and cuddling as positive reinforcement. I'm using the feeling of being in the right feeling as their reward. When everything feels good and in alignment and their mind is in the right place, I just stop and say, "Did you feel that?" And they go, "Yeah, I felt that." I don't have to pat them for feeling good. So that for me is easy but when people are starting to, reward their horses through positive reinforcement, through their grooming and stuff, for doing the right thing, and then they spend time in the paddock cuddling them, then the horse is like, there's no kind of clear line between the work ethic side of it and then the relationship side of it, and it's always mashed together, and the horses can get they can lack a bit of effort and try, I suppose. So we have to be very careful with that. When you are doing something around your horse, have a way of saying, "This is a directing lesson. I'm just directing you." When you want to do some grooming with your horse, stop, walk up, let them sniff your hand quietly, ask for consent, go in and groom with them, then break the conversation and step back, and then be done with it. Don't let them come up for you for the grooming all the time if you want to be educating, especially if you're doing a fair bit of education with them. You come to them for that, okay? So they're not coming into your space for that affection all the time. So they're not going, "Oh, can I do it now? Can I have it now? Can I?" So you're not having that fight all the time. When I put a halter on a horse and I start to move that lead rope, then it's mind on to task and search. When I stop moving that lead rope and I'm not using that holder, I just say, "Righto, maybe take the holder off and have some time just grooming them." Whatever. Have a way of just, it's your horse. You've got to be creative. Whatever you like, but it's got to be a black and white line between the two things, not live in the two realms too often. When I'm walking around with a horse and I'm looking in the direction of travel, and I would do this for a while in regards personal space before you do the leading by lesson, okay, is just walk and give yourself about a 1.5 metre boundary. So when you're on task, you're cleaning manure in the paddock, you're fixing a fence and you're leading your horse around, that horse is to stay outside of that space, because that's your happy working space where you've not got someone breathing over your shoulder or breathing down your neck while you're trying to do something or you're going somewhere, and look like that you're on task. I'm walking over there, I'm fixing the fence, I'm talking to a person. So when you're engaging with something else, the horse should read the room and say, "Oh, they're not engaging with me, so I don't have to come over to them because they're not engaging with me, they're just doing something. I've just got to follow the lead rope with them and stay out of their space." When I engage with the horse, I turn around, I look at the horse, I put my hand out like a soft gesture, a handshake, and say, "Now I'm engaging with you." And that you have to be very clear in that in body language. And we teach our children that, like, if you're in a conversation with someone else and that kid runs up, "Mum, dad, dad," you don't automatically turn around and go, "Yes, darling." You keep the conversation going. You put your hand up to say wait to them, to say you can't interrupt people. And then when they've softened and they've quietened, and then you realise it's an emergency and there's probably blood somewhere and you have to maybe acknowledge something, then you turn around to the children and go, "Now what would you like to say?" And then they talk. So they've learnt to read the room when they come into a room. And horses in herds learn to read the room. "I'm eating hay, go away." And they learn very quickly, when that horse is eating hay, it's engaging with hay, I'm not going to bother it. Mutual grooming with another horse, I can't go and groom with them because they're already doing it over there. So horses are good at teaching other horses body language, and we need to do the same. We can't just let the horses come to us and scratch them even though we were doing something else, because that means the horse doesn't read human body language and doesn't learn to read it, and then one day they'll get in trouble a lot in their life and they'll wonder.
Makes sense. Okay, so there's some really good tips there on sort of establishing that clarity. What about when the horse, she's doing the exercise though, the horse is learning to read the room and comes in on her? What sort of, just a couple of really, really quick tips, because I know there are videos on this if you want to delve into it, Hannah, in more detail online. But just to get that horse to sort of step back and then, but also keep going with the lesson.
Yeah, so basically, like for the horses that have been fairly, I guess they've started to sort of just not notice a lot of things, and I just do something that creates the boundary. So like the one of the easiest ones is just carry a little flag, and when the horse says, "I'm just going to walk straight up to you," at that point that of boundary that you've set, you just pop the flag big on your leg, and it goes, "Whoa, what was that?" And then you just go about your business. And every time the horse touches that boundary, you just pop your leg, and it goes, "Oh, maybe to stop that from happening, I'm just going to stay outside that boundary." You're not attacking the horse. You're not going at it, banging on it. You're not also, which some people do, is let the horse come all the way in and then chase him back out again. That's saying you can come into my space and get out of my space. You push me, I push you. That's not what you want either. So it's when the horse gets to that boundary, you show them where the fence is by saying, "Hey, there's a fence there." Righto, okay. Later on, when they've got more foundation, you just put a little bump in the road, or you can do anything. But I first use their eyes, because usually it's their eyes that make the mistake. There's a thing I talk about now called the windscreen wiper effect. Now, people can drive, you know how some people can drive along and the windscreen wipers can be going in front of them all day long and they just don't notice and they're just looking at the traffic. A big bug splats on the window and they're like, "Oh, I've got to wash that off. It's annoying me." Okay. So a lot of horses, it's the windscreen wiper effect. We say, "Hey, get back." And then all of a sudden, see that's happening there? You're just watching me talk and this becomes nothing, yeah? And you see people doing the windscreen wipers all the time. "Get off me, I'm waving a flag and it's not working. Why is my flag not working?" Well, your horse is just looking through the windscreen wipers, keeping on going. And I said, you've got to be a big bug splat that the horse goes, "Oh, geez, you've got to get that off the windscreen. I've got to get out and move." So you've got to do something that is clear enough that the horse blinks and goes, "Oh, I just saw something in front of me," or "I better step back." Not, "Oh, I just walked through the windscreen wipers." So really think about that. That's got to be clear enough that the horse visually went, "Oh, I can't walk there. I might have to step back." So I tend to interrupt their eyes first, because obviously their eyes are the window to their brain. It's their eyes that have just learned to just walk through things. So we've got to reset the eyes and how they perceive and see things and what they choose to act on and not act on. And then I might work on the halter. But there's nothing worse than, I see people bumping on a horse's nose when the horse's eyes are just like walking through windscreen wipers. So you fix the eyes, and then when the horse is using its eyes properly and it goes, "Oh, she just stopped. I saw her stop. That means I have to stop." Then the horse has made the decision itself. So you're not micromanaging it, because the horse's eyes told the brain the person stopped, and the person is not just a windscreen wiper. Then you don't have to bang on them all the time. So you fix the eyes first, and then later you might teach them to stop with a rope, move with a rope, and it becomes a leading lesson. But you don't want to be using the lead rope all the time on a horse that's always making bad eyes.
Thank you so much, Mark. Some great tips this week. We'll be back again in the new year, next year. Our podcast will continue every week. We generally try to get one out if we can. So all thanks to our huge support from the online members that help Mark to do what he does, and that we can do this podcast and help so many other people who are listening as well. And so thank you so much to all of you, and wishing you a very happy end of the year and new year from both of us.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, everybody. And thank you for all the support as well. And hope everyone gets a bit of time off, has a bit of a break, and gets some family time in. And Merry Christmas and all the best for the new year.
The accurate insights and solutions that Mark Langley gives are at the forefront of emotive horsemanship globally. You can learn them for yourself through his supportive online membership. Check it out with a 7-day free trial. marklangley.com.au